Hey there, my name's Karen. I'm going to show you how I built a seven-figure virtual roofing company within 12 months with only 3 full-time and 3 part-time employees. This video is going to be pretty simple. I covered what I was doing before, why I decided to do this opportunity, the starting pains, the execution, the receipts so you guys believe what I'm saying, and the lessons. Okay, let's jump into it. So before doing this, I had a call center in Tijuana, Mexico, where my team and I drove across the San Diego border and turned an empty banquet hall, if you will, into a thriving call center with 35 to 40 full-time employees within 60 days. Here's some fun pictures. There's me cheesing with our first class. There's those sexy SOPs that I love to see. And then here's our first, another picture of the class being taught. So after that call center, I was like wandering for 3 months, like not knowing what to do, kind of losing my mind. So I had a call with a close friend and mentor of mine and discovered he had the ability to install roofs nationwide. And I heard there was a group doing pretty dang good at it, having good results. So at first, I honestly wasn't too stoked, but as the idea sat and marinated with me, I realized there was a pretty unique offer there. It was zero down roofing with low monthly payments and really credit-friendly options, meaning some of the 615 or higher he had approved to get a roof. And it overcame a lot of the main things in contracting that were scary. People running off with your money, all that kind of stuff. Because it was zero down and no payments for 2 months after the roof was fully installed. So why did I decide to do this opportunity? And I love this picture because it reminds me of myself. Are you okay, bro? Yes, I just need to lock in, but there's all this chaos around his head. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel a lot of the time, but I'm working on that. But why did I decide it? So a framework I created, and it could be relevant to you, or you can find some value from it, is if I feel an idea is good enough, I set aside $10,000 to test it. This number can change for anyone. It could be a few grand, or it can be millions of dollars. But I was comfortable losing 10 grand. I believe the upside was much bigger, right? Good old opportunity cost. And here's the definition for fun. Now, here's the second framework I decided to go through. Does this have leverage? Can this scale? Yes, my install partner had nationwide reach, and all I had to do was focus on marketing and sales. So that was super easy, way easier than controlling the install side, making sure people are showing up the job sites and putting the roof on, getting the materials. All I had to do was market and sell. Did it have equity upside? Maybe, no. My hope was that the marketing engine can grow big enough. It could be a big enough chunk of their revenue where it'd be open for an acquisition by the install company or install partners. Did I trust my partner? 100%. He's a friend and mentor, and he owns the install side. Was there reoccurring customers? No, my heart hurts for that. I love recurring customers. I do not have them in this. And what's my unique advantage? After the call center, I had a really good team ready to go market, and I had a really good team ready to go sell. So the good marketing engine and a good sales team, I understood that we could launch this pretty quickly and test with that 10 grand if this be a viable opportunity. So I decided to lock in, not look like this guy, and lock in, right? Started this process. So here's the starting pains. When you operate a business purely made on paid ads, you don't get the luxury of like turning it off. If you stop spend, the platforms reset your learning of your pixel, the costs respike, momentum dies, and that led myself to working 7 days a week for almost like a month and a half to 2 months, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., which I don't recommend. I don't mind working 7 days a week, but what I mind is my quality of work decreasing over time. I find the sweet spot for myself is right at 6 days and take 1 day off and do something I enjoy, because that way I can be refreshed and jump back into it. And then I realized speed was a major bottleneck as well. If someone fills out a form, you need to reach out to them within 30 seconds. The goal is instantaneously. And the reason being is attention spans are getting shorter with time. People can't even go to the bathroom, like pee in a urinal. Like next time you go to a restaurant, look beside of you. Look, they'll probably be on their phone. And ladies, I'm sure you have your own version of that. But our goal was to call them within 30 seconds and make sure they answer the phone 15 minutes later to give them the proposal and have a same day close, right? And then what we realized over time is that cash flow is a big silent pressure. First, God bless Amex, God bless America, because you get 30 days of no interest. which allowed us to scale pretty quickly. But it led to the next problem of jobs having to be installed quickly, funded quickly, and paid out quick enough to keep paying down the Amex bill, keep scaling, and keeping enough profit off the top to do business, right? We're not a non-for-profit. We're a for-profit company. So that was a balancing act. By month 2, I made a contrarian decision and hired an American-based setter. So as I continue to lock in, we make that first hire, which is I hired a US-based setter, which is typically a contrarian move in online virtual sales. Everyone says offshore, 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 offshore. I said, wait. Cost wasn't the constraint in the beginning. Speed and clarity was. I needed someone who could communicate clearly and share issues with me with the processes that I built initially. Share issues with my onboarding processes, my CRM, and the texts and the objections customers were giving. This decision helped us pull everything in quicker, right? Launch better ads, create better text flows, and organize the CRM better. Once the systems were matured, setting became a pretty dang easy process to replicate. At that point, we offshored after we had a strong foundation. And then a major breakthrough, I'm going to bold this because it's that major. No, is when we hired a full-time closer. It's a true unlock in the business. I was able to basically hire myself out of the day-to-day and start to focus on the marketing efforts, which will be a whole nother video because it is crazy what we went through. CRM-wise, when we started, we used Monday.com, which is essentially a sexy Google spreadsheet. But as staff increased, we chose to move to GoHighLevel. It let us move faster, have organized text flows, some better integrations. And as mentioned already, speed is everything. When a lead came in, they got text immediately. They received automated text if they didn't answer. And if they didn't respond to phone calls or certain closer calls, they entered different follow-up sequences, which was super helpful. SMS was a major thing with consumers. Everyone lives on their phone, so it was massive for us. Communication. This is funny. People give me a hard time about Slack, but for Slack, it wasn't only a communication tool, but it was an information system. We had a channel that notified all our setters the second a lead came in, including the criteria such as credit score and what state they were in. The customer would enter all that information, and then we would get it, and we poured it over in Slack. And that mattered so much because we get a lot of leads at once sometimes, right? And at that point, our setting team had to determine what was the highest priority lead to reach out to them instantaneously. The goal was always sub 30 seconds, sub 60 seconds, but that information made it really good. Second was end-of-day reports with tally forms. They were daily feedback loops for myself and the marketing team, from the setters and the closers to see lead quality and what they were dealing with. So here's a quick look at the Slack. Here's the goodies, right? We had the rapid fire channel for the set appointments and all that good stuff. So as we move into this is kind of what the tally form looked like for a setter at the end of day report. The date, how many appointments set, how many calls made, depending on which system they were using. We would rotate between open phone and GoHighLevel because we don't want to be spam, right? If you get a spam phone call, you're not going to answer it. So we had a way of getting around that. And then a very important question, which I love to ask, is did you call all leads within 60 seconds? If the answer is yes, woohoo. If the answer is no, then you're overwhelmed. And tell me why you're overwhelmed and in what time. That way we could hire more people. I'd rather hire more people than have a lower time to contact because as I mentioned earlier, people's attention spans are going down. Okay. So here's the receipts. This is a fun part. I didn't realize how much money we spent on ad spend on our Amex until this. Well, here's one card alone, $715,000. And here's another card, close to another 150. So 800K plus. Zuck, if you ever see this, dude, you should take me boating. We spend a lot of money on ads. This could be a vibe. And a shout out to one of the guys who helped me so much, an advisor on the team, Paulo. I had to get him this shirt, run more ads, because that's what we do. We run plenty of ads. Here's happy customers getting their roof installed. And they went through the process beautifully, filled out an ad. They were called within seconds. Then they were talked to a closer. And at that point, they picked the best option for their family. And 2 weeks later, they had a beautiful roof installed. So this is me. I drove out 2 hours to meet them and get a vibe on the situation, and they love the process. Here's KPIs showing some ROAS, some fun numbers. And here's a cool moment. Some big checks come in. That's fun. Make up for that ad spend. And remember, that's gross, not net. Now, let's go into the lessons. Lesson 1, third-party financing became an issue at one point. Because this business was so dependent upon approving people, because we were mainly selling financing for roofs, if a customer couldn't get approved, that bled into everything. It bled into approval rates, right? Because CAC went up, because we couldn't sell as many people, but then the math changed quickly. So the business tightened up because market conditions changed, like interest rates. And the cool thing about interest rates and market conditions, when it's in your favor, it's phenomenal. But when it's not, it really sucks. And you end up feel like this guy a lot, like, what am I doing? You're really thinking about stuff, right? And then a second lesson I learned is the realization of not owning the whole pipeline. Once we just focused on sales and marketing, we couldn't control certain things. We couldn't control quality of the install for our clients. We couldn't control when they were going to get installed, right? The speed, which affected our cash flow. And small delays hurt big when you're scaling pretty hard on credit. And so the trade-off is real. There are some perks. We didn't own the install side at all. The customer signed contracts with our fulfillment partner. So that means they owned the warranty. In addition to that, they did all the install, dealing with all the employees, which was obviously a big stress of our plate. But it also means that we give a control where timing matters most on cash flow. And then this is how I feel with this one. Woohoo! Learn something. Is the product/offer matters more than anything else. And the biggest lesson I learned is there was a time when the finance conditions really tightened up with the roofing company. We could only sell really, really premium customers, like prime credit. And prime credit people have all the options in the world because they can finance anything and everyone wants to underwrite them. But then I realized something, that I was basically selling a commodity, because roofing companies get their shingles from the same few manufacturers or distributors, if you will. And the biggest thing that matters is the quality of the install and then the warranty. But a lot of companies have the same warranty, right? So with us being a virtual big company without a local brand presence and local pricing advantages, we turned into a race to the bottom during that time period. And that's never an environment that I want to be in again. And so the biggest takeaway from here, and why I feel like this is an amazing learning lesson, is the more unique your product or offer is, the easier everything else becomes. And that sounds obvious. I read Hormozi's $100 million offers a long time ago, right? Finding a starving market or starving crowd. But I didn't really internalize it and live it until our financing really tightened up and we couldn't only sell the top shelf premium customers who had all the options in the world. And with us being virtual, there was more costs. We could not compete against some local installers. And so it was an interesting time, but we learned a ton from it. So summarize the lessons: be aware of the third-party issues that could slow down your business. Realize that there's pros and cons to not owning your full pipeline, and realize those. And then really focus on whatever you do, having the product or offer. Like I said, take whatever you can take from this video. Is it relevant to you? Thanks for watching. If not, I'm glad I could add an ounce of value. But if you watch this one all the way through, you're a real one. And I hope you found some value from it. And these are videos and thoughts I want to share next. The paid media lessons of spending that $800,000 in 1 year, all on credit, right? So you're always paying those things off. And yes, I'm debt free, so I'm okay. I still have a house over my head, a roof over my head, funny enough. How I set up my Slack, how I set up my SOPs in Notion, and how I set up my KPI boards to do real-time feedback to the marketing team to see how the ads are performing. So appreciate you guys. And this is how I put together and built a 7-figure virtual roofing company in less than 12 months. And for those wondering, it's about 241 roofs installed with about an average ticket value of about $20,000. So looking forward to seeing you guys later.